on top of genocide and ethnic cleansing, and forced migration and whatnot, we have to add animal cruelty to the charge sheet for the IDF and the Israelis because, it's ridiculous. Oh, these crocodiles, they're helping the Hamas. Fuck off.
So,
Danger like Hamas. We need to
so are
The
you saying?
crocodile.
So are you saying that the idea that Israel have killed more crocodiles than Johnny Weissmuller of Tarzan?
I'll tell you what it is. They're worried about the EU actually putting economic sanctions on. So what they're doing is setting up so they're killing all these crocodiles so they can have body armor. Because crocodile skin's got fucking actual body armor. So
No, it's not. The real story there are. So, guys, if anyone's wondering what's going on, there's unconfirmed reports that there are crocodiles in Israel, is it, Pagan? That could be Hamas operatives. So obviously, because they're possible Hamas operatives, they had to because
feedback.
I think that's Daily Blasé's mic because he was coming in with that because the feedback there. Do you want to just check your
blower? I have a bit of a blower. Just a bit. It might be the fan I've got here. I'll turn it down a little bit. Is that a bit better? Is that a bit better?
There.
See if I could turn the fan down a little bit.
I don't think it's a fan.
I have a great.
It's almost like. It was the fan. Okay, my apologies.
Half over, but.
Okay. We've been raided by the Bin Podcast. Say hello, everyone. Say hello to the Bin Podcast. Good to see you guys. Hope you guys are all doing well. And obviously we started a bit odd there. I couldn't be bothered to do the countdown. I thought we'd just go straight into it. But hello, everyone. Welcome to the Roundtable. Today we have three amazing guests. We have Indie Truck Davey of the YouTube channel Two Davies. We have Daily Blasé, of course, youtube.com/Two Davies. And we have one Angry Pagan here as well. Also, we do the show of the Eco Flake show, which we'll be doing in 2 weeks' time as well. Good to see all of you guys in the chat as well. How's everyone doing? Everyone all doing well, apart from the heat wave there? I can see Charlie seems pretty comfortable in all this heat there, Davey. If
Yeah, I work with animals.
That's how you respond. Just pick up Charlie and move Charlie out the way. Oh dear. All right, let's do it. Let's. I'll go straight to the first main topic anyway. We'll discuss, guys. So the big story, obviously, in the news, obviously, is going to be tomorrow. What's happening in Alaska? I still have skepticism about whether or not it's even going to happen. Like, because it's Putin, because we know he's a charlatan, he's a liar, he's a crook. Trump is a liar, a charlatan, and a crook as well. But I just don't. I'm skeptical about even if this meeting happens. Do I think it'll benefit Ukraine anyway? No. Is Trump looking at this to make it beneficial to himself? Yes, I can see that. Is he going to sell Alaska to Russia? I don't think that's going to happen. I've heard people talk about that. Pagan, I'll start with you first. What do you think anything is going to come out of this that is going to benefit Ukraine in any way, shape, or form, or is this meeting really like, because the position, some people see there's nothing more than just a PR stunt for both leaders as well. What do you think about it?
I think there's a multifaceted view of this. For me, I've been watching all sorts of stuff from different sites and different YouTube channels and whatnot, and it seems like an aspect of this is PR stunt. That's obvious. I do think there is a possibility of Trump getting annoyed with Putin because he's been getting annoyed with Putin.
He already was, wasn't he?
He's been getting annoyed. He's already been getting annoyed. I'm wondering if anyone's going to tell the Mandarin Revenge Monkey that Putin's been having Russian state media show nude pictures of his wife on state news and then laughing at her. I'm wondering if someone will one day tell him that, because you'll see his orange face go red. It'll become.
If I'm honest, I think their relationship is kind of in the shit anyway, and I think she's just sticking with him just for the money anyway, the money and the power.
It's not a case of he'll offended on her behalf. He'll be offended because that makes him look stupid. It's not about her; it's about him. Yeah, and as much as I hate to say it, in this case, the Melania, I think the Melania thing might, in the end, come off proper for Putin, because he has been showing pictures. He's been, having state news show nude pictures of her. On what can Ukraine get out of it? People talk about land swap, and I'm like, what land swap are we talking about here? Because Russia took back Kursk, unless they're talking about, say, unless Trump seems to think in his aid that he can get Russia to give back some of Zaporizhzhia or some of the lower south bank of the Donetsk, where because Kherson Oblast is split in two at the moment, isn't it? Yeah, with Ukraine holding the north side of the river and Russia holding the south, bordering Crimea. So, are you talking
about Kherson? You talking about?
Kherson. Yeah. If I can just see it, the way putting myself in Trump's head, which is dangerous, I know, but putting myself in Trump's head, I see him going, well, if Putin gives back the rest of Kherson, he can keep Crimea. Maybe that's what he means by land swap, because as far as I'm aware, Russia completely kicked Ukraine back out of Kursk in the north. So, that
whole land that they took last year, that's all gone back, and they've actually pushed from there into Ukraine territory from there anyway.
Yeah. But what my question is, do they think? Does Trump's side think that there's going to be that they can swap a bit of Kherson for ceding Crimea officially over to Russia? Which I'm just trying to think of the legitimate ways that Russia, the people behind Trump will try to get this done, because Trump himself will just say shit. Right? We know Trace. It's the Mandarin Revenge Monkey. He will say whatever the fuck he wants. But the people behind him are the ones actually doing the job. And I'm wondering if this will be the route they tried to take to try and get Russia on board.
Davey, what do you make of all of this as well? Because there was an article source from, I think it was from Reuters or New York Times. I can't remember quite who it was, but there was a source that's saying that the minerals deal that the Trump administration signed with Ukraine a while ago, that they may actually give those minerals in some kind of deal with Russia, whereas instead of those minerals going to America, it would go to Russia in some kind of deal with Putin. I don't know if there's any truth to any of that. I'll get your thoughts on that. But what do you make of this situation?
I found the articles in the UK press interesting, where Trump was going to approach this and try and convince Putin to stop what he's doing, hold the land he's got, which would then become occupied territories, as described by the Ukrainians, basically along the same lines as Israel, Gaza, the West Bank. And they were talking about divvying up the assets of Ukraine between the two of them as a business opportunity. That's why it's been portrayed in the UK press, which I thought was interesting. And that's where the mineral stuff comes into it. You know, stop the war. We'll divvy up the rebuilding of the place. We'll divvy up their minerals in order to fight for it.
Mm.
And you get to keep what's now full.
I mean, there has to be some kind of security guarantee. I mean, like Ukraine's gonna flat out refuse anything that doesn't have some kind of security guarantee. Even if, like, they may have to give seed ground on giving land to Russia. I see that as a distinct possibility, but I don't. One of the things I really don't think Zelensky is going to give up on is security guarantees for Ukraine.
You would want America. I think someone in the Trump administration did say there is a possibility of a guarantor from the United States, but there is no possibility of Ukraine joining NATO in any of this situation. That is a red line that Putin will not cross. But I don't trust Putin to keep his word on any piece of paper that he and the Russian Federation would sign anyway.
He's got history. He's got history on not keeping his word.
Yeah. Darren, what do you make of the situation? Do you think anything positive will come out of this deal?
Well, I think one thing to learn. I think it's just his way, one of his ways to try and distract from Epstein as well. One thing's certain. I don't think Putin's going over there to hear about his expertise on glass. That's for certain. He doesn't even. Let's be honest. We all know full well who's in charge of this meeting. Because let's be honest, he has no idea. He's just. You look at Trump and you listen to him, and you think there's nothing between the ears anymore now. Really, it's just the cognitive decline. Just nothing's going to happen. Really, he might be able to go back and do his sort of like Neville Chamberlain moment. Is it like, here I hold in my hand this piece of paper, we've got a ceasefire, and then the case of. At 5 o'clock next day, no, there's nothing happened, nothing changed, and just him in the news. Well, it's all about him, really. Because how can you have negotiations with the man whose country invaded the other country, and not have the leader of the country who's invaded?
Well, Trump has had face-to-face meetings with Zelensky. Yes, we all know about the one where I did a recording and I kicked off for 45 minutes while Trump was having to go to Zelensky for no goddamn reasons. But there's been other more friendly face-to-face meetings between Trump and Zelensky since, whereas Trump and Putin haven't met once, I don't think, since Trump came back into power.
That's true, yeah.
So this is basically Trump going, well, I've met Zelensky, and we ended up in the end managing to have good chinwag together. So I'm going to try and do this with Putin, and the reason why it's happening in Alaska is because that way Putin doesn't have to cross any other the airspace of any other countries to go and visit the US. Because otherwise he'd be like his plane could be forced down and he'd be done in the ICJ, as he should. But so that's the reason why it's happening in Alaska. I mean, I take it you guys all saw the embarrassing bullshit of Trump basically saying that Alaska was Russian.
Yeah. I mean, that press conference was pretty. Like, I mean, how many more examples do you need of his cognitive decline? To know, I mean, he was talking about making grass great, for crying out loud, you know.
Things if Biden had said any of that nonsense. Can you imagine what the Republican Party were doing? And Trump, they'd be going mental, and they're clearly unfit for office. Time to get him out.
The thing is, it's like Europe are like scrambling, doing like. Obviously having these meetings with Zelensky and whatnot, and obviously Zelensky here in London and whatnot. But I I do feel like Zelensky's going to have to make some concessions if he generally wants peace. But I think whatever happens, if a peace ever does come, Zelensky is going to be a goner one way or another. I feel, because the reason that the Ukrainian public are only approving of Zelensky is because of the war. Once the war is over, they will want a new government. They will want a new leader.
They may
It is
want
only
a new government. They may
no. There's the you saw the recent protest not too long ago when he was trying to fiddle with things.
Protesters were saying they were against the decision, not Zelensky himself. The protesters said that themselves.
But there are some. There were people who were talking to. There were people anonymously who were talking to Ukrainians on the ground anonymously, and outside of those protests after it happened, and many of them were saying anonymously that while they support Zelensky because of the current situation, they would like a fresh start after the conflict is over.
Yeah,
which is completely understandable because
I'm
obviously
just saying that there's still a portion of the population that will back Zelensky even if the war finishes.
Yeah,
I mean, that I actually spoken to people who are in Ukraine who actually support. I do think that Zelensky should an election should be held. If the war, when the war finishes, an election should be held, and I would prefer to see Zelensky replaced, not for any ideological reasons, but as you say, so they can have a fresh start. But I also know that there is a socially conservative bent in the sense of a lot of people feel that Zelensky has led their country extraordinarily well during this, and feel that he should be given time to see what he is, how he is as a peacetime leader after a war instead of just before a war.
This meeting reminds me of 1938 Munich, peace in our time, sisters.
Right. Well, you mentioned Chamberlain earlier. I have to say, like, people do. I hope people understand when it came to that Chamberlain event. I'm not for what Chamberlain did. Don't get me wrong, but he was also going off of the vibes of his own voters, because people in this country at the time did not want to go to war. A lot of this missed a lot these days. People spit out Neville Chamberlain, but what a lot of people don't realise is that Neville Chamberlain was actually voicing the voice of his constituents in this country, who were saying they don't want to go to war with Germany, despite what Germany had been doing. They didn't want to go to war with Germany because they still had scarred memories of the First World War. That's what a massive reason why Neville Chamberlain did what he did. And again, I'm not in favour of what Chamberlain did. It was the wrong decision, but I understand why he did what he did, and it wasn't out of some weakness. It was actually him listening to his own constituencies for the most part that led him down that route.
Mithril says, I do think Chamberlain is unfairly treated. He had to try and buy time to allow for rearmament.
Yeah, he was being like the war hawks were going at him. Like Winston Churchill had been going at him before he took over, but Neville Chamberlain had been listening to the voice of the British public, and the British public were still somewhat anti-Semitic and not wanting war, and I say British English public, as we know that's what the especially that's the main one that Westminster listens to is the English, not none of the rest of Britain. But that's the reason. That's the main reason why that happened. So I think is in a different situation, because whilst there are a lot of people in America who don't want America to be involved in the Ukraine-Russia war, there are also a lot of Americans who do.
I mean, when before the Trump administration came to power, what was the rhetoric that was coming out from the Republicans and people on the right wing at the time? They were all saying, they were all pro-Russia. They were all pro-Russia. They were all saying, we don't want to supply Ukraine. We're wasting taxpayers' dollars on Ukraine armament, on Ukraine aiming shipments, and all this kind of thing, right? Now, since Trump has come in, that was initially what they were starting with, that language, and then there was a point where then we had obviously the meeting at the White House between the two, Zelensky and Trump, which didn't go well. Then you had the which I thought was really important, was the meeting at the Pope's funeral between Zelensky and Trump, and I think that was a major game changer, because all of a sudden Ukraine started getting things from America, things that they still needed to get, because there are obviously still people in the Trump administration that wants to stop weapons, stop any kind of stuff going towards them. So, and like we've all said anyway, that Trump is he's gone up here. So there's a very high possibility that if you put Trump in a room with Putin, he's going to come out of that being more pro-Russian than he's ever been before. And I think that's probably what's going to happen more than anything there. Tim, thank you so much for. I just want to say, Tim, thank you for the £5. I know people from Ukraine who have had family issues, issued Russian passports, tried to stop them resisting the initial invasion for self-preservation. Mm-hmm. I believe. Thank you for that, Tim. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure that obviously when they occupied the, Dave's just stepped away for a moment. I'm pretty sure that when they occupied the territory, obviously, especially back in 2014 Crimea, they moved all the Ukrainian residents out of Crimea and they put their own Russian residential in there to make Crimea more Russian than Ukrainian. And then, and as you said there, obviously they're trying to obviously converge the population into Russian rather than Ukrainian. Hence why they also kidnapped over 50,000 Ukrainian children, and I think only 2,800 roughly or so have been returned to Ukraine. So Russia a lot of those children.
Russia has plenty of historical precedent for that. For literally hundreds of years, whether it was under the Tsardom of Russia or the USSR or the Russian Federation, Russia has always had this thing of Russification, especially of eastern parts of Ukraine and Crimea. They have been obsessed with Crimea for literally hundreds of years.
I find that fascinating. I find that absolutely fascinating, considering it's been known in these islands for as long as I can remember, where the central government has tried to anglify the Welsh, the Scots, and the Irish.
That began with Alfred the Great.
Maybe with the Welsh, but certainly not with us. And actually, it didn't. It happened pretty well bang after the United Kingdom came to being. But I just find it fascinating, because for people who talk about the Russification, when the Anglification of the empire was actually a normal thing. I dare say the Russification of those in the Russian Empire was a normal thing. That's an absolutely fascinating subject.
It's normalised to them. It's normalised.
It's normalised to people of England and all.
That area has been fought over by different peoples for literally hundreds of years. By different ethnic peoples. When it comes to the Anglification, I mean, I'm no fan of the empire. I want to.
It seems to be an imperial thing.
Yeah, but because I'm hardly for the British Empire. I'm also going to speak out against the Russian empires as well.
Yeah, but you still accept the Anglification of Wales and Scotland and Northern Ireland.
Yeah. Well, and Cornwall. And
Cornwall, yes. And Channel Islands.
I said,
it's normal. It's normal when Westminster does it, and yet it was a bad thing when Putin does it.
Well, no. Well, I think that's bad. I think it's bad when Westminster does it, and when the US does it, and when other people. I also think it's bad when Russia does it. being I'm being equal here. Like there's no me preferring my own country over to Russia, and England is all great and Russia's bad. No. I've always been against the British Empire. I'm a Republican in that sense.
Yeah, they were 100% Ukrainian. If they held a Russian passport and they resisted, and that they and their families could be executed as traitors, what would you do? Well, I would comply, because obviously I would put the safety and priority of myself and my friends and family above all else, even if it means sacrificing my own nationality. Thank you for the £5 super chat, Tim. I would comply, as much as I would not want to, because in that situation, it is literally a case of life or death, really. I mean, there are some people who will gladly accept that fate, but who will accept that fate and be more their patriotism comes above all else, because we do see that in some people. But I think, when we talk about people's lives there,
the fact that the Ukrainians have held them off for so long is testament in of itself, as far as I'm concerned.
The answer to that, Billy, is basically all different European nations are the ones who buy them, who through the EU funding buy it. Germany, Sweden, Austria, lots of different countries buy weapons.
We put into a pool and then buy a pool.
Yeah. I hear it all the time. Germany is definitely one. I hear it all the time from different articles where they buy certain materials and off America, and then they pass them on to Ukraine. Is how it works. And I believe it's from a pot of money that the correct me if I'm wrong. I'm sure it's like a pot of money that the European Union allocates for it as well.
Sorry, have you heard that a number of the battalions? Can't remember the military terms here. The pilots that were sent here and to other NATO countries to do training for the F-16s.
Yes, have some of them returned yet?
A large bunch of them are completing their training and are about to return to Ukraine, which is also a boost.
Was kind of difficult for them because it's hard for them to control the skies, considering.
True, but one of the biggest issues with them actually being able to get planes up in the air was having the planes to actually do so. Now they've got more. They're starting to get more and more planes, but it's also the pilots' issue, and they didn't have the pilots trained to fly the F-16s that Western countries were trying to give them. So we've like the air base where Palestine Action went into, training of Ukrainian pilots was happening at that base.
A German traveller in the late 1800s noticed that the Russian Empire, Poles, Baltics could speak their language, and Ukrainians were beaten up and even killed if they spoke their language. Yep.
Ukrainians have been like it just in the context of that part of the world, like Ukraine, the area that is Ukraine, especially eastern Ukraine, has been ravaged by through different empires and different peoples. It is such a dynamic part of the world that's unreal.
Well, it's well, you can say this, Joe, as well, to a certain extent about the Baltic nations, Latvia, Estonia, Lithuania, those countries as well that were part of the Russian Empire as well. But I think obviously Ukraine is unique, of course, because of its connection to the Black Sea, which is another reason why why Putin did what he did in 2014 as well, to have that access to the Black Sea.
What I don't get is he already did have access to the Black Sea.
Yeah, but he was. But the point has always been from Putin and Russia's point of view is that NATO are encroaching on their area. NATO is all around them. This has been the argument and the point that they've always said about NATO trying to is basically too close to them. This is what's always been. It's been the argument in the case.
Putin doing what he's done has forced countries that did not want to be in NATO to go, yeah, we'll join NATO. Fucking moron.
Well, I guess we'll have to wait and see how the meeting goes tomorrow, if it happens at all. Because still, guys, I have to remember it's it can still get called off. Like, we could wake up the next morning and find that Putin changes his mind. You can even find out that Putin never even got on the flight. And hey, it's that Sergei Lavrov is meeting Trump instead. And it's just like, you're not Putin. So,
could you imagine the face on the Mandarin revenge monkey if that happened?
You know what? It would be a big fuck you from Putin to Trump to snub him at the last minute and just send his lapdog instead. Just to show just how bloody gullible he is. It wouldn't surprise me one bit. Like, honestly, I would not be surprised one bit if Putin does not turn up for that meeting at all. I honestly wouldn't, guys.
I think at this point with Trump, you could send any baldy man in there, he'd think it was bloody Putin.
Yeah. I mean, I find it so, like, I do find it in a weird way fascinating, this talk of Putin actually going to Alaska, which is American soil. Still, part of me feels like this doesn't add up. Like, I just can't. Like, it feels weird to me. Like, that's why I just don't see it here. Yeah, the Russians also want access to the Black Sea. Yes, it is. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, indeed. Let's move. Let's talk a little bit about what's been happening in the UK. The one subject that will not go away, will not shut up, unfortunately, is something that Scotland needs more of, and something that the mainstream media needs to stop talking non-stop about, and that is immigration. Ever since Parliament went into recess, we've heard. I said I wasn't going to talk about reform, and here I am talking about them. I'm terrible. Ever since everyone that went on the holidays and whatnot, you've seen Reform UK, you've seen the likes of GB News, you've seen Chris Phelps, the Conservative MP, you've seen everybody on the right, or if you want to call them far right, or whatever language you want to call them, banging on day and night on Twitter, on the media, about what's happening with the migrants, the boats crossing over. And I thought it was really fascinating. There was this piece from Barline Times that broke down just how, now I don't know the numbers in terms of specifics, in terms of nationalities, in terms of English, Welsh, Scottish, and Northern Ireland. I can only go by. But in terms of UK as a whole, a YouGov poll found that they found that over 50% of people believe that there's too many illegal migrants, and there's no such thing as illegal migrants, but in my opinion, I don't like using that term, but most Britons, apparently, again, I don't know what the division is in between nations, I just want to put that out there, believe that there's too many illegals in the UK, when in fact the number is like less than 5% or less than 5% of the population in the UK is actually of illegal migrants, and the vast majority are legal migrants. But the problem is that even if you throw numbers and statistics and facts at people out there, they don't care. They still think that there's too many migrants. They still think that the UK is going to burn to the ground. Well, England specifically, we'll say the English specifically, because they're the ones shouting about this more than anything. They think everything's going to burn to the ground, that there's too many migrants and whatnot. And I suppose the question that I'd like to ask each of you actually is, what are we doing to stop this terrible misinformation? Because it's seeping into the minds of the British public that migrants are a problem, that people who are deemed to be of Muslim or certain colours or certain backgrounds are seen to be potentially trouble, even though they're not trouble. We know they're not trouble, but that perception is being hammered consistently by certain politicians, certain influencers, certain medias. What can, if anything, we do about it? I suppose, Davey, I'll start with you on this one first, because I know Scotland needs more migrants, if you've spoken about this before, but obviously I don't know this term. Go on.
There's a fellow down there in England, he just after Brexit, and when Bojo went to power, he wrote a song singing, "I'm moving to Scotland." They're saying up there, you know, And it appears you're all coming here, 41 fucking thousand a year in the last year. And you're coming here and we don't mind. Because you're integrating. Apart from that, you'll get more employment. We're paying better wages. And the standard of living's higher here in Scotland than it is anywhere else in these islands. So we've got a massive influx. When the Poles left, the English have well moved in. And we have had a massive influx of inward migration. Our population just hit 5.5 million for the first time ever. And since 2020, inward migration to Scotland from other parts of the UK has been absolutely massive. But in the last few years, inward migration to Scotland from other parts of the UK has been phenomenally high because we've actually done better than most of the UK. We've got lower council tax, we've got better public services, we don't pay university tuition fees. Kids don't pay for dental or eye tests or prescriptions, or nobody pays for prescriptions. We've got so much better, and we are finding that a vast amount of people are actually moving north, especially when they get a wee bit older and into their 30s and 40s and can work remotely. They are definitely selling up and moving here for a better standard of living. They can sell their house in the south of England for huge amounts of money, move up here, buy a decent sized home for 150 grand, send their kids to good schools. If they've been here a few years, they can go to university for nothing. So inward migration is working here, but we need more. But we need it in a pace where we can build the communities to move them to. But actually, National Records of Scotland have just released that 41,000 people from other parts of the UK moved here in the last 12 months. And they're also stating the reason why they're moving here. At this point, we'll get the highest mean average wage at the bottom level. We pay less tax at the bottom level. And we don't pay for things. Our children don't pay to get on buses until they're 23. Our pensioners don't pay to get on buses after 60. There's no road tolls. There's no peak rail fares. There's lower council tax. There's no university tuition fees, no prescription charges. We have better childcare arrangements and early learning. In fact, you guys, welcome in. The doors are open. Just give us a couple of months' notice so we can build you good accommodation, all right?
Yeah, I know you guys have been asking me to come up there. I've got to convince. I'm not a beer person anyway. I just want to, just before we carry on, I just want to say thank you, Tim, for the £2 super chat I missed earlier, saying that Putin is asking for the return of Alaska. We'll obviously have to wait and see if that happens. Thank you for that. Thank you for that super chat. And he sent another one asks. Basically, Tim is saying, "Wake up, Scotland! England, Scotland! Wake up, Scotland has little chance of joining the EU if not part of the UK."
We don't talk. The UK is not part of the EU. It's independent Scotland. Who doesn't want all the electricity we've got, all the oil we've got, and all the fucking gas we've got? See some of the rubbish that's spoken. It's unbelievable. And me, if you don't like the fact that we've got better public services than you, that's fucking tough.
I mean,
We've got better beer as well.
As much as I love Scotland, and I like the times I visited, I loved it, and I have family that's Scottish.
Thank you, Tim, for the super chats. Very generous. I appreciate them.
I do love the land on which I was born, like down here in Devon. I mean, here in Devon, we have a major push on the green energy front as well. It's weird. I mentioned this in the politics social chat earlier, and I'm finding it very strange, right? Since Labour came in, my benefit has gone up substantially, and by a meaningful amount, it's gone up. It's my disability benefit as well, not just the working people's benefit, the actual disability benefit, the
entitlements.
I'm supposed to be one of those people that Labour are supposed to be picking on, and I'm not feeling Labour picking on me. Right, so I'm getting better access to my GP already, and yet I'm hearing from other people they're not getting their uplift in UC disability benefit, and they're not seeing the GP. So I'm wondering if it's a rollout issue rather than the an actual policy issue, because I'm
maybe it's a party membership issue.
Pardon?
Maybe it's a party membership issue.
I haven't
because
got
you're a party member the whole route.
Did you not hear? I left the party earlier this year when they started their
No, I
anti-trans.
hadn't heard the young fella. No, they were quite understandable.
Yeah, for me, the Labour government was always going to be a case of I'm at the very most likely to get 40 to 50% of what I want, and at the moment, considering the legislation that's still going through Parliament as well, that's pretty much what we're getting. So I'm like, I never went into it with starry eyes. Labour's going to be perfect. They're doing a lot better on the environment than I was expecting. I wasn't expecting the funding to go into the Badger vaccines program, which is I'm still fucking happy about.
Or hell the Badgers.
Or hell the Badgers.
Sorry, I had to say that.
But but at the same time, Labour are fucking up. Like, they do not need to feed the zeitgeist. Now, I had a long, interesting chat with a few people a few days ago about the issue you brought up, which is how do we counter the narrative? Now, the problem is fighting a zeitgeist is not easy. Once the zeitgeist has taken hold, it's not easy to fight that. And the zeitgeist that we have now is the anti-immigration bollocks. What I do notice, however, is that a lot of people, at least where I am, if they see racist shit happen in the street, like, strangers will stick up for the person being picked on more often than not, whereas they just seem to feel like there's this sense of unfairness when it comes to people coming into the country. And as strange as it sounds, despite all the railing on about how dangerous migrants are from media, the majority of the negative feeling towards illegal migrants from the majority of people I speak to and majority of people I've heard around the country is that it's less about the danger they might cause, but the feeling of unfairness. Because it is fear, as we all know, is a very virulent mind virus, if not regulated properly. And that's exactly what Farage and his ilk are taking advantage of. Labour are seriously struggling to find a way to. Before they came into power, there were many Labour MPs fighting against this narrative of immigrants bad. Right, I saw it myself, and even they're Lib Dem MPs as well. But since coming into power, I've noticed that their messaging started to lessen more that the public was not listening to what they were telling. Like, it didn't matter how many MPs went, immigration is good for us. Yeah? The public are going off of vibes, not of facts. So, and they feel like it's unfair. Now, but that's the main. To me, that's the main. That's the main core. We need to make people realize that it's not unfair, or show them that the situation is getting better. Because on some levels, it is actually starting to get better. The backlog has been cut down by half already when it comes to assessments being the assessments being.
I want to before you respond, I want to bring Darren in. What is your take on recent events obviously been happening? There was Chris Phelps, the Conservative MP, who claimed that a knife was pulled at him when he was at a French camp over in Calais. I don't know how true that is. But obviously but in a serious point, him being over there filming and saying the things that he's saying is obviously gaslighting people, just like what Reform are doing as well. And the Conservatives, all they're doing is swinging more people towards Reform anyway. What's your take on all this? On this?
Strangely enough, I've been sort of like having a bit of a deep dive into all this. Because I thought myself, right, I'll have a little look, because apparently we've been it's an invasion, we're being swamped by them. So I went looking for a bit of statistics and this, that, and the other. Do you know how many how many asylum claims? I can't remember if it was processed in every 10,000. 16. Not exactly an invasion, is it? It's not exactly an invasion, and it's like, I've looked it up on a number of, because different sources. You might start to think I might have got the wrong information, and it's true. And you look at it, and you see the hype that's been. You remember them group of Scottish Scouts went to Wales. I've been deep diving into that. Wow, that is just mental. It's just utterly mental.
And there was that story, the charity rowers.
Yeah, it is.
I'd like to address the comment you put up. I'd like to address the comment you put up, Regan-Elite, about Spain vetoing Scotland joining the EU. In 2014, the Spanish foreign minister made it clear that they would not, because Spain had a different constitutional arrangement. And in 2017, when Nicola said she was going to hold a referendum, Spain made it clear they would not veto Scotland joining the EU. So it appears that whoever's comment it was very, very badly informed. I don't know which part of the UK he's in, but if he'd have been here in Scotland, he would have known these things. They were in the press. So that goes to your comment. As to the immigration issue, on the asylum invasion, queering up asylum claims, that backlog's been there for years. Absolute years. The Tories ignored it. And as they defunded all the different services, it just gets bigger and bigger and bigger. It's going to take Labour a long time to clear. Some of these people have been sitting waiting their claims being processed and approved for up to a decade.
Yeah.
I mean, the backlog has been cut down by nearly half.
And all those people,
it's a lot faster than I was expecting.
They're all coming out of taxpayer money as well, because they changed the law that people, while they're waiting for their process to be claimed, they can't work. So they're getting paid by taxpayers. So, and the thing is, all these people who continuously go mad about, they're getting free money, free this, free that, they want to work. And we've seen, I've seen interviews of people, and even some off camera, saying that they want to work, they want to contribute, but they can't because they're not allowed to. So if they can't work for a living while they're waiting for their claim to be processed, what are they supposed to do? They have to get money from the government. You can't just sit and let them starve. They have to get something. There was a while ago, I think I've shared this on this channel. I don't know how many of you are aware of this, but there was this while ago. I think it was from Politics Jar on Novara Media who shared it. There was this lady speaking about how some asylum seekers who are basically waiting for their claims to be processed, they've been volunteering. They've been doing loads of volunteering work to pass the time while they've been waiting for their claims to be processed.
I've got a very famous story on that. Here in Glasgow, is one of the biggest recipients of asylum seekers UK-wide when it comes to per capita, right? And we actually had a fellow. My father was on the board of Glasgow Health Board. I don't know if you would know that, right? And he was telling me about a fellow who was volunteering in the Glasgow Royal Infirmary as a janitor just to remain in a medical situation. He was an Iraqi brain surgeon waiting to get an asylum claim passed. It took 5 years for his asylum claim. That's 5 years that guy could be saving lives. 5 years he could be into his training, getting his licenses updated so he could work within our NHS. What a waste of bloody time. What a waste of talent. How many engineers is there amongst these people? How many doctors is there amongst these people? How many educators are there amongst these people? All these things that we need. And these people are being left on the scrapyard. And by the time they get through the trauma of it, they're no fit to work.
Yeah, just like as you know, as everybody else here, they're not your average girls, are they, Dave? They're not. They're not. They're not. They're not people who are, just commit and who can only press buttons. These are your lawyers, your top-notch nurses, your doctors, and can come here, they will contribute. So, it's like one thing I've thought about, because like I've been in the process of making a bit of a content, going to have it ready for Monday, and it's about. I was read an interesting article about. It's called moral panic. It's basically that's what they do. They spread moral panic into it. They basically for the clicks and the likes, they need that moral panic, don't they? And this has been going on for years. Because like there's a Cardiff University, they did a bit of a thing on it where they said the British media are the absolute bits when it comes to anti-immigration rhetoric, than the rest of the European countries. So they're the absolute bits for it. This was in 2016.
See, this stuff's been straight wrong. Absolutely right. These people are the people who could afford to move. And that is the brightest in the societies they're running from. And we are throwing these people in the scrap heap. We should be getting them processed, finding out what their talents is, and getting them into the industries where we bloody well need them as quick as possible. This is nuts. We have got such shortages in certain industries and things like that, and they could be there amongst that population.
Let me just share something from the YouTube video I had from Byline Times, because I've got the piece up here. I wanted to because I've just got the numbers in front of me here. So a YouGov poll was asking UK residents about immigration revealed that what can only be described as catastrophic levels of ignorance. When asked if there are more immigrants staying in the UK legally or illegally, 33% of all YouGov poll respondents said they were much more in the UK illegally, while 15% said they were somewhat more. 14% said the opposite, and that were much more staying legally than illegally. It said also, I just want to put these numbers for context for those who haven't seen the video. For respondents who said they want large numbers of immigrants to leave the UK, the levels of ignorance was even more dramatic, with 55% who said that there was much more in the UK illegally, and 17% answering somewhat more, with just 4% of those who want to deport immigrants answered that were much more staying legally than illegally. So, and the actual numbers, as I got here, according to the 2022 UK census, there were 10.7 million legal migrants in the UK, while Oxford University's Miriam project on migration puts the number of illegal immigrants at 750,000. So in other words, there are roughly 14 times as many legal immigrants in the UK as there are illegal. In other words, much more staying legally. But the problem is, that's not what the British public are being told by the likes of Farage, the media, the mainstream media, and outlets out there.
What released a book on, manufacturing fear.
Yes.
And that's exactly what Farage did. He did it in the Brexit. He did it with his lawless Britain now, because we know crime rates at an all-time low, and the only crime rate that's really high is online fraud, and nobody's dealing with that. And Nigel's talking about no safe walking through west of London in the middle of it after 9 o'clock in the evening. What a bloody idiot. I don't think any city in the UK is unsafe at this point in time when you look at the stats. Crime in England is actually dropping like a brick. Crime in the UK has been hitting record lows based on the 1990s, where violent incidents were up in the hundreds of thousands, and now they're doing 20,000. It's fucking nuts. It's just nonsense. But that's what we call manufacturing fear.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. But how do you stop? How do you stop manufacturing fear, though? How do you stop it?
You regulate the press, and you get positive people and positive messages into the press, via the people who are supposed to represent us. I mean, there are 5 UK Reform MPs, and they are 136% more likely to cause crime or be convicted of a crime than any other member of the public when you look at their track records.
Mm-hmm.
And they're 22 times more. Sorry, they're 22 times more likely to cause a crime or have been convicted of a crime than the average member of the UK public. Mind, we're only taking in 5 as a subset. And we look at the one that beat his girlfriend up there's that 20 odd percent, right?
Yeah.
But I mean, when you multiply that, you know, they're 133% more likely to cause a crime than an asylum seeker.
I know.
So it's just nonsense. It's manufacturing fear. Fear works. It always has.
It's the old was a hell, isn't it?
People used it. Donald Trump's just pulled the same stunt in Washington State.
Yep.
And Washington's capital, where he has said the crime was at an all-time high. But actually, the murder rate in America is at an all-time low.
It's going down. In Washington, it's going down. Literally, like, we were watching the live stream yesterday. Don't see on the live stream yesterday, MSNBC, while Trump was talking, riling up at the press conference, they had the statistics. MSNBC had the statistics on the right of their graph saying that it's going down while Trump is saying it's going up. And it's just like...
It does have to be said, though, that the crime rate in Washington D.C. is higher than in other cities, which is what they're hinging all this on. Like they're because it's higher than in it. Despite the fact that yes, it's absolutely true that crime is, especially violent crime, is at a 30-year low in Washington D.C. in the district of Washington D.C. What Trump's administration is hinging all this on is that Washington D.C.'s crime rate is still higher than a lot of other American cities. It's like it's just one. Who is it? So a YouTuber called Volsh, right? That I watch, right? American leftist YouTuber, and he's been saying for a while that this is a modern pale imitation of the 1930s and 1940s. Like it's fascist behavior, but like not on the level that we saw before with actual fascist, you know, with the actual effective fascists, because they don't know how to do it anymore. Like, no, seriously, if this was the actual Nazis or Mussolini, like this would have been like America would have been a lot fucking down. It isn't. Look at when they sent the fucking National Guard into LA. They were run back out. The National Guard were run back out of several parts of California because they don't know how to police.
The one good thing for saving grace, I say the one saving grace for being for America, even though they're being ripped apart right now, is that their administration are a bunch of fucking idiots. Yeah. Because if they were competent, they would be dismantled a lot more faster, a lot more. It would be a lot more.
People would be feeling it right now.
Yes, I think that is true, and the thing is that smart people would be taking. It's the smart people, if there were smart people in that Trump administration, which they're not, because the entire cabinet is full of billionaires, aren't they? The majority of them there. Is that hold on a second. The problem is obviously that you have a health secretary that wants to kill people because he decided to cut $500 million from vaccines, from the vaccine program in America, and that just absolutely terrifies. Like, do I think? Like, I know we're going away from immigration a little bit, but do I think a Nigel Farage reform government would be as insane, as dangerous as Donald Trump and the MAGA base and Republicans? Can it be as bad as them?
Possibly.
Yeah, I think it is still entirely possible, because if we see just how bad America has got under them, is it entirely possible it could happen here in Westminster? Well, obviously we have a House of Lords and the system's a little bit different. But could we end up falling that far down? Could we end up going as bad as America is? It's entirely possible.
Well, considering that Trump's approval in this country is still at an all-time low, like he's not favoured well in this country even now, despite the fact that Trump's puppets have been feeding this this confected fear to our public. Our public is still not on board with Trump. Like they still don't like our public still don't like Donald Trump, and I think Nigel Farage is starting to have arguments with other right wingers now because he's realised he has to.
It's been said. Max has said it. Everyone has said it. He has to appeal to the moderate voters if he wants to get into power.
He has to chill his message out a little bit, and that's because he's realising that the British public is not the American public. As much as there are similarities, there are some major fucking differences.
That's I think it's
that our population is actually more educated than the average American.
If I'm honest, Simon, yeah, I don't think they're all dumb, but I think a lot of it is that they are arguing amongst themselves as well behind closed doors. Because we've heard some of them have arguments among themselves as well, and I think that also. Because obviously they're not very united. That also there. Thank you, Alison, for the £5 super chat. Appreciate it.
Scott Besson's intelligent. You see it when he's trying to argue for the tariffs and stuff. He's so uncomfortable when trying to argue for these tariffs because he knows how bad they are. He knows how bad these tariffs are, but he feels that there might be a way to get for him. To get power, to get some measure of power after Trump is gone. That's how I see Scott Besson anyway, the main economics guy. He's not stupid. This guy's not stupid, and I reckon he's been having a lot of arguments with Trump and the pro-tariff group behind him because. I think he's also been trying to convince Trump not to kick out the guy who heads up the Fed because he also knows that would be bad for the U.S. economy. So it's like, but at the same time, these people like Scott Besson, despite the fact that they are actually intelligent, they're cowards. Like look at Marco Rubio, for fuck's sake. This guy was a massive Russophobe. And now look at him, like he's like, oh, but we have to partner. We have to try and be nice to Russia. Oh, fuck off! You were for the last decade, you've been a massive Russophobe. You've been telling U.S. government not to trust Russia. What? And now suddenly, no, you're just a coward. Sorry, rant over.
No, sorry.
You need to excuse a cat, guys. It's just. High on catnip.
Where's the Charlie fan club? Where's the Charlie fan club? That's what I'm wondering. Charlie's been the centre of attention, and the fan club's not been here. I'm disappointed.
Actually, his behaviour. He's stoned. All right, he's on his fortnightly dose of catnip.
Right. If you got catnip in one of those clear bags. Our cat will actually grab your hand to force his head inside the fucking bag of catnip.
No, we keep it in a sealed club. Otherwise, he'd do the same. You wonder what he's doing, up and down, up and down, up and down. He's stoned.
I have no wrong with that.
Wouldn't it be better if Trump? I heard something amusing from a friend of mine. Wouldn't it be better if Trump had been someone who smokes weed because he might be a little bit more fucking chill?
Do you think it'd make more sense if he did?
Probably, actually. Probably.
What I do now.
I don't think Trump, having been an ex-alcoholic with an addictive character, would be very good with drugs. Because he would go quickly from cannabis to opiates to whatever the fuck's on the
He seems to have this thing against opiates. This lifelong thing against opiates. This Trump. If there's one thing I've got to give it to him for, he's like when it comes to opiates, he has never been infected. Like he's always been like, yeah, nah. I was like, okay, that's surprising. That's surprising considering how decadent the cunt is. I'm like, okay. It's like when you find out Hitler was dead against animal cruelty. I'm like,
see when you use that word there, on Angry Pagan, that made me laugh because there was somebody the day with a sign that said you're just a weird cunt with Trump.
I've got to say, I still like some of those signs that when he went to Scotland, some of the signs from the protesters were absolutely brilliant.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, we got to see him firsthand, didn't we?
Aye, they were protesting at the American consulate in Edinburgh when we were up there, when we were in Edinburgh, and a couple of the girls come round, hey, Trump's a cunt. Nene was right, Trump's a cunt.
Someone did a dump in one of the fucking...
Oh, yeah, Jake Goody was right.
Yeah.
Lee Godley was right, your stuff. And somebody the day where fans were playing golf with signs said, you're just a weird cunt in Trump. But you got to remember, here in Scotland, we hated Trump before anybody else, you know?
Yeah.
Well, he likes to consider himself proud part Scottish, doesn't he?
He is, he's more Scottish.
That's because it's his mother's side, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, wasn't it?
His mother
She
Mary
was a major
is
fan of the royal family, apparently.
His mother Mary is from the Western Isles.
Apparently, his mum was a major fan of the royal family as well.
Yeah, that's where his love for the royal. I suppose that's where his love for the royal family came from. His obsession with the Queen. Now his obsession with the King.
Apparently, Charlie can't fucking stand Trump, but Trump absolutely adores Charlie. It's really weird.
It's because he's royal, because he's the king. That's why.
I just love to be in Charlie's mom.
You're talking about Charlie. No, you're talking about the cat Charlie, not talking about the king Charlie. Yeah?
I just love to be in Charlie's mind, you know. Like, he sat there across from this orange revenge monkey who absolutely adores him, going, I absolutely can't stand a damn thing about you.
I can just say, can you just imagine the conversation we come back when they ask him how was his trip to meet the king? He said, the king had a fantastic conversation. He said, Mr. President, you have bigger fingers than me. I say thank you, sir. And I king's sausage fingers. Yeah, I can imagine a conversation there with them two. My God.
Charles is actually intelligent, which is the fucking...
Not sure about that.
Oh, no. He's not. He's not.
You motherfucker.
Hey, look, we're talking to someone who's a Republican here. I want to see the abolishment of the monarchy, but I will say...
That wasn't the question. The question is, have you met Charles?
No, but I do have family members.
You know that, right, mate?
He's not stupid. But no, he isn't stupid.
Thanks, Emmanuel.
I say this because of the amount of attention he actually pays to the environment, and when he talks about it, you can see his enthusiasm about and the amount of attention to learn about the environment. There's one thing I can give credit to Charlie on. It's his love for the environment. He does actually. If
he loves the environment so much, he can give up some of the fucking land back here back for the people because they have too much fucking land.
He has been. That's like Labour did a major deal with him last year.
He needs to do more. And agree not only to give back land, but also to pay for all the tax. The royal family should pay all the tax that they've been holding throughout that whole period that they've been holding it. Every single penny. And that includes inflation as well.
I'm all on board with the arguments against the monarchy. The only thing...
so am I. Yeah.
It's Charles's environmentalism because it is actually genuine and he is actually paying attention.
I agree with you there, but if you actually meet the fella, he comes across as pretty dumb.
I know, but I also know that he's not he's not actually stupid. He might be a little bit dense, but that doesn't mean he's stupid.
Oh, Pagan.
I don't think he's
I appreciate you, buddy. I really do.
He's just dumb.
Oh my lord!
I have to say, Lizzie was quite, she was a lovely woman. You know,
Liz
didn't
was.
you know, but she was a really pleasant wee woman.
Yeah, I never met the Queen, but
I did. I met the Queen. I was like 10, but I met the Queen.
Oh, well.
Yeah, we went along with my father, got honoured by it, so, and we met her. And to be fair, she was pretty polite, because when the captain of the guard came out and said to my dad that he wants a word, I said, well, she can fucking wait. We're talking to him. And she took it in good humour.
I still remember the time when she trolled the Brexiteer with that outfit. Not much trolling.
Yeah, I did like that. Yeah, I did like that.
The one, she's a wee stare at me and a wee smile.
Yeah.
You knew she hated Trump, because throughout that whole first state visit there, you can tell the way Trump was acting, and you could tell from the Queen's how she walked, her facial expressions, the dresses she wore, basically gave all the indications. I fucking hate this man so much.
The first thing that came into her head when she saw the president turn up at the palace would have been, this is what
he cut the Queen off at one point, didn't they, when they were walking together as well? I was like, you don't fucking cut the Queen off, you bastard.
See, on that occasion, I don't think it was Trump's ego. I just think he was overexcited.
No, he's just a fucking idiot.
I genuinely think Trump was just he's like, he's geeking out over the Queen, and he's so overexcited. He actually cut her off. It just more fun.
I remember the images of like the tux that he was wearing and everything. It just looked like a giant walrus to me.
Have you seen that fucking blue suit he wears? What the fuck?
Bloody hell. I know, going off topic, guys. We're just trying to have a bit of fun in all this, because we need to when it feels like the world is fucking dying around us.
The album party was brilliant. The band, the bit that was the worst bit about it when she broke Charlie Bear that year. But see, when it came to the sandwiches and films, that's when my father says, "Come on, boys, we're going to get a pint of burger."
Yeah, her body language was dire, Alistair. Absolutely, yeah.
I'm pretty sure she hated Boris Johnson as well, given the body language.
She hated Boris Johnson. I can't imagine what she thought of Liz Truss before shaking that hand that killed her.
In her head, she's going, "Oh, great! First it's the US with the orange revenge monkey. Now it's us."
It's like shook the hand of Liz. She shook the hand of Liz Truss, so it was like, "Oh, death has finally come to me at last."
Death knell.
And that fucking blonde bitch still won't stop talking, Liz Truss. Fucking, she was on the Ben Shapiro show in America. I'm like, really? What? Yes, that bastard. Oh, he's got a massive following. Like it's like, in all seriousness, it's really bad when you see the likes of Liz Truss and Boris Johnson being put on those. If you see them on those podcasts and whatnot, yeah, they are American, but it's still publicity to them. It's still publicity. They're still like hanging around, like they're like those people in a club where they're in an area where nobody talks to them because nobody cares about them, but everybody just wants them to get out of the club, but they won't leave the club, if you know what I mean. Like, I'm sure they've been told, look, nobody likes you, you should leave the club. This is Boris Johnson and Liz Truss, and they're still in the club, even though nobody wants them in the club. If anyone gets that.
Ben Shapiro's hardly popular at the moment.
No.
Does anyone remember when he got absolutely humiliated by Andrew Neil? on live on YouTube.
I mean, that lefty Andrew Neil,
Yeah, like, according to Ben Shapiro, Andrew Neil absolutely destroyed him on national television. I can't believe I'm giving credence to fucking Andrew Neil here, but it was really nice to watch.
I must admit, after I watched that, I had to go and get a big, massive shower because I just felt disgusted. I just felt so dirty.
Oh dear, oh dear.
My favourite bit of American politics though was George Galloway hit the Senate. That was fucking hilarious. If you haven't seen that, look that up. It's one of the funniest things you ever seen in your life. George Galloway was called in there by oil, Food for Oil, a programme that was on during the Iraq conflict. And so the Yanks pulled him out, blaming him for being involved in it. And he just went. And he went in there in the school with a bunch of wee boys. It was hilarious. If you have not seen George Galloway in the American Senate, look it up. It's going to be one of the best bits of theatre you guys have ever seen.
I've got too many problems with Galloway because
so bad. He's he's 100% brighter than every single American senator he would come up against. It was a senator he come up against. It's just you have to. If you've not seen it, you've got to see it. It's hilarious.
It's funny that a grifter like him can demolish people that are like really high up in American government.
Right. School like wee boys. It was hilarious. And wee boys and girls actually, it was hilarious.
I swear
it was watching the headmaster walking into a common room and giving everybody a belt.
I swear the education level between Americans and Brits is big. I did see that on average Brits are more educated than Americans, which is you'd think it would be otherwise.
You sure that's not starting to level with given what's been happening
Well, let's let the university tuition fees kick in down that road for a wee bit longer. We'll see how it goes.
I mean,
you're watching that experiment.
I never went to university, and I still studied for most of my life. Like there are a lot of people in my situation who are like just as a matter of course more knowledgeable about the world than the average American.
Well, the Americans will tell you that themselves. There's a lot of Americans.
Well, some Americans will. Others will go, no, we know everything.
I don't want to slag the American people off because, to be fair, the few that I have met have been absolutely wonderful people.
You know what?
I've been 3-4 times to California specifically. I've been, I've been lucky enough that I have an uncle who lives in that state, and I've been fortunate enough at a young age to go to places like Death Valley, Las Vegas, San Francisco, San Diego, Miami, San Diego, and being near the border with Mexico, not actually across it, and pretty much from all my memories of America, I don't ever remember a time when I was with my family doing travels in anywhere that I ever felt we came across somebody that wasn't rude or mean. Everyone was always so nice and so polite. And even like I remember one time we popped out to the shops, like me and my uncle, like literally one morning we just decided to go to the shops. I can't remember where it was. And they're literally walking down the street and somebody actually knew that I wasn't American, that actually thought I was European. And they literally just stopped and said, like, you're not American, like you're not from around, you're not America. So it's like, yeah, no, I'm not. It's just like, how you doing? Like, hope you enjoying America? Like just a completely random person.
I've been warned I would get a different reception if I went to America.
It depends. It depends what you're wearing as well. Sometimes the clothes you're wearing as well.
Not only that,
but it's also important context to add as well. Obviously, like I'm saying, Yeah, a lot of it was California. I don't know what Florida's like. I don't know what Texas is like. I don't know what Washington's like. I can only go about what people say. And until I go to those states, until I go and see those places myself, I can't. I can only.
I want to go to places like Utah and whatnot, where there are major paleontological research, where there's major paleontological research to be done. However, those states are highly socially conservative, very fucking Christian, and whenever I come across communities like that in England, I'm always harangued in public. And when I come across Americans, or when Americans come across me on YouTube, they're nearly always the ones to give me shit. So, like, I've had warnings not to go to America, despite the fact I'd love to go to America, because the paleontological study is just insane over there. And yeah, just their average wildlife in their back garden, the average American back gardens, they have amazing wildlife. Their garden spiders look nothing like ours.
Can you go bother your mum?
Charlie's
You know what? It's just, sometimes Charlie, right? Sometimes Charlie like is looking at you. Sometimes Charlie then's just staring at the wall, and then sometimes Charlie will just come on your lap, just randomly out of nowhere. Charlie just can't make his mind up tonight.
Every time you say Charlie, all I can think of is Charlie bit my finger.
That mean a few times and all.
I'm sorry I can't introduce you guys to Dolly, because I can't actually pick up Dolly, because Dolly's not. I was saying to people before we started the live stream that Dolly's never been picked up as a cat, so Dolly's not used to it. But we're going to make her get used to being picked up, whether she likes it or not.
Be careful, psychotic of cats sometimes.
She hasn't scratched or. She hasn't. Yeah. We are talking about pets now, guys. Sorry, she hasn't scratched anyone yet, but she's very, very. She's getting along. She's very. Yeah, we're turning into the animal channel now, but she'll get around anyway.
Well, back to America. I've only been once, and I was on R&R for live firing exercise in Canada at Blasé, and that's where do you want to go? California for a fortnight before we had to go back to Blasé and fly back. So military flight down to California, no bother. Brilliant, get there. Maybe spends 2 weeks in a hotel room, nobody like day fuck all, because I'm 20-year-old, you can't get a drink till you're 21. Horrible place. And then when I did go during the day and looked round about, because of where I was, the deprivation was quite hard to swallow. I mean, the tented cities had started and things like that. This was the late 1980s, early 1990s. It was a fucking horrible place.
See, I wouldn't like to go to New York. New York, to me, it's like London. I hate going to. I've been to London numerous times. I hate going to London. It is, to me, it's like Plymouth. It's a concrete block. I hate going. It's not enough green, and I would hate being in New York as well. Same reason. There's not enough greenery. It's a concrete fucking block.
Funny that, Pagan, I was talking to I think it was a comment like come up on my show this morning, and I'm from a city, and I can't live in the city. Just can't. I grew up in a concrete jungle. I don't want to be in a concrete jungle.
I grew up in a green city. Exeter is one of the greenest cities in England.
Glasgow's very green and all, but the housing estate I was in was just a concrete jungle.
That's what I mean. I'm a city boy myself, technically, but I cannot go. I wouldn't move even back to Exeter. I'm quite happy, in the borough that I'm in Torbay. It's nice and green here. It's not a concrete fucking block.
Well, communities, you all know, sometimes have problems with the internet because of it. And
thanks for the £5 super chat, Alistair. There. Yes, so we do need to get Mikey Phantom on. Yeah.
Get Mikey, hit me up. We'll have a chat. Maybe we can get him on the channel.
Yeah, I'll try to see if I can invite him on for next month, because I do have Lee Corn on for next month's one. So for that.
By the way, thanks for letting me get Chris tonight.
He said he won't join around. He could. I don't. I haven't sent him my email. I've said this. I want to make this clear to I just want to make this clear while I'm live, while there's so many people here. If anybody is interested, my email is free. It's freely available on the YouTube channel. My links. It's very easy to contact me via social media or via email. It's very easy to contact me. And like I said, I want to make this very clear. I did reach out, like I said before this roundtable, I was saying on my live streams that I was reaching out to 1 or 2 people and they weren't responding. And if they're not responding, what am I supposed to do? So I'm not saying, I didn't reach out to Mikey, and I do apologize for not reaching out to him. But there was nothing stopping him reaching out to me as well. I just want to make that clear.
I need to bug Mikey more to come on Discord, on both the Politics Social and the REGANELITE Discord channel.
I make this clear. I'm available. So I am available to talk to. My email is reganelite@business. It's freely available to. You can email me on that on anything. It's a public email I have for anybody who wants to contact me regarding anything, including if they want to be on as well. I've talked about wanting to have Graham Hughes on, but I can never get in contact with him as well. So he's
so fucking. That man is so stupidly busy. It's unreal.
I don't know what he does, anyways. But
so I've been supposed to be doing a similar program. You know how we do the eco-flicks. We're supposed to be doing a similar thing with him, but he's so busy.
Yeah, we're not. Well, I just want to remind, obviously, for those, because we are coming up on half night, I just want to remind people, obviously, next week I'm going to be in Glasgow for a couple of days. So I won't be doing live streams I think I'm only going to be doing maybe 2, maybe 3 live streams next week. That's how little live streams we're going to be doing next week.
Maybe when you hit, and I'll come and buy you a beer, young fella.
I did tell
a coffee or a few other things.
I have told Jenny already, and I did tell your brother as well. But I'll remind you. It'll be Tuesday. Next week, Tuesday afternoon.
We'll be going on a REGANELITE hunt next Tuesday afternoon.
Literally, just call Jenny and says, "Where the fuck is he?"
I've got to get back up there.
I'll know let you know I'm coming. I'll just get them to track you, and I'll.
Yeah, that's it. That's all you need to do. But if anybody else wants to come and meet up, Wednesday, obviously I'm going to a wrestling show that's hence why I'm coming to Glasgow for a few days, and I'm traveling back on Thursday. But obviously I'll be arriving Tuesday afternoon. So if anybody wants to meet up, again, my contacts are available if you want to meet up in any way, shape, or form. Tim says, I think Graham might have family issues. I hope whatever they are, I hope they get sorted. I really sincerely mean that.
Yeah, because he was supposed to be doing a joint stream with Super Tansky tomorrow morning and has had to call it off because family issues.
Okay, well, whatever it is, I hope it gets sorted in all seriousness. Thank you for that £2 super chat. Guys, we have hit 9:30. That's normally the time where we stop these roundtables. I want to say thank you again to Daily Blasé. What's it been? The 3rd, 4th time now I've had you on. You have been literally my right hand man for all these roundtables. So I really appreciate it.
I've had more appearances than Nigel Farage has on Quick Question Time.
I think you've had more appearances here than Nigel has in Clacton, if I'm honest. I think that's probably a better analogy to be there. But guys, tomorrow, Friday Frolics, 5 p.m. Make sure you join Daily Blasé for that. I cannot recommend it enough. That's 5 p.m. UK time for those who are not in the UK, just for reference there. Tomorrow, of course, 10:30. Don't miss it. A paper review with Dave McGuinness. YouTube.com/the Two Davies. Do not miss it. Or you see that sign behind him that says the naughty step. He will put you on it if you are late for the show. So do not miss it.
I'm no sure you've done your ass on the way up.
You've been told. So please go and if you're not subscribed to Ivan Charles, make sure you do as well. And also, just below me here on the screen is One Angry Pagan. Do check out his work as well. YouTube.com/One Angry Pagan. All the links for all of us are down in the description below. I haven't set a date for next month's roundtable, but I will obviously set it up as soon as possible. I will let everyone know. I'm sure I'll have you on it again, Davey. I can assure you. I might.
The entry into this live stream today was the best entry I've ever had in a live stream, because to watch four guys piss themselves laughing as it goes live is probably the best entry you could ever have.
It's better than a countdown.
We had no idea why we were doing it, but by God, it was fun.
Yeah, if we can do that, then yeah, well, I'll probably do that rather than just doing the countdown. Anyways,
I can just say people who will just started off and will hear me say, "Oh, so you're saying that Israel have killed more crocodiles than Johnny Wiseman?" And what? What we're talking about here?
Starting a conspiracy theory in a minute.
And I will be back live tomorrow at 11 o'clock, right after Dave McGuinness finishes on his live stream, guys. So if you can join me for another good morning show, feel free to do so. But we are ending the live stream here. I'm going to literally click the button. Thank you guys all for coming along. Thank you for those who gave super chats. Tim, Alston here. Thank you guys so much. Very generous of you guys. And for all your comments. Obviously, can't get to every single one of your comments, but I appreciate all you guys being here and sharing your thoughts. Much appreciated. Have a wonderful evening. Make sure you stay cool, because it is so fucking hot. It is ridiculous. So please make sure you are taking care of yourselves out there. And we will catch you all very, very soon.